The 90s invasion of the now obsolete girl group spun a plethora of some of the hottest artists we still recognize today. But before there was a Child of Destiny or a TLC, SWV reigned supreme when they hit the scene in 1991. Known for hits like Right Here and I'm So Into You, the non-biological sisters with voices dominated the music industry during a time when the R&B genre was settled in its golden years. It wouldn't be until they released their cultural innovative smash hit Weak that the group would then solidify their musical impact. Becoming their first #1 single, the song to its core seemingly sounds to be of that of a lyrical ballad about one being head over heels for a special someone. But word to Keith Sweat, apparently we all got it twisted. Did you know Weak was actually about a woman? Black women in the 90s. You had to be there. As I'm sure most of you watching are also huge fans of that era or were conceived to its infinite selection of R&B's baby booming bops. If we take a look at the state of record-pumping entertainers nowadays, there seems to be a few things lacking. One being talent. The other being girl groups that at one point were being produced faster than Nick Cannon's Tribe of Children. SWV quickly became one of the GOATs of their time. Despite being constructed to be the female version of New Jack Swing pioneers Guy, the girls' artistic direction didn't exactly turn out that way. The then teens, consisting of lead vocalists Coco, Taj, and Lily, were taking a whack at this here music industry, despite not even being all that down for it to begin with. At least for Miss Coco, who'd ironically end up becoming the lead vocalist. Shocking, right? The luscious brown beaut supposedly wanted to be a hairstylist and didn't even consider music until one of the girls, Lily, convinced her otherwise. Good thing too, because where would we be without the sultry, warm sound of SWV? The girls would go from gospel to R&B icons real quick after the release of their first single, Right Here, in the fall of 1992. Their next hit, the more up-tempo, shoulder-bumping I'm So Into You, would be their next chart-topping single, sitting at the top 10 of Billboard's Hot 100 chart. Without a doubt, the trio were on fire, but it wouldn't be till they shook the table and took over the #1 spot with their slow ballad, Weak. Weak went on to stand the test of time, becoming an important piece of the 90s craze. It reigned supreme, guarding the throne for 2 whole weeks, knocking Janet Jackson's That's the Way Love Goes smooth off the charts. I get so weak. Listen, I don't care where you are. When that beat drops, you know it's about to go down. Karaoke nights, at a bar with friends, writing solo in your car, at a library, a dinner, movie, doesn't matter. The urge to drop everything in an instant, even your own baby, is more strong than a Category 5 hurricane. Weak went on to sell over 1 million copies and was awarded a platinum certification from the RIAA. As of today, the song has sold over 3 million units, tripling its platinum status. Pitched by A&R Kenny Ortiz, believe it or not all of the girls were on board with the track. Matter of fact, Coco said she hated the song at first. Can you believe that? Out of all the people! So much so that while recording the track, she locked herself in the bathroom and didn't come out until they got her mama on the phone. Sister Girl just wanted to get the entire process over with and fast, making sure to give it her all in the studio every take they'd record. Weak has gone on to become SWV's biggest hit to date, and it's hard to imagine anyone else singing the eye-dilating tune. Some songs sound as if they're just made for certain artists, but believe it or not, we almost missed out on hitting Coco's "Something About the Way You Do, the Things You Do, Ooh, Ooh, Eh," followed by her iconic riff, of course. Singer, songwriter, and producer Brian Alexander Morgan is responsible for creating the timeless ballad. but he never even intended for the song to be given to the group. In fact, how the girls unwarrantedly got their hands on the record was one big happenstance. Brian recalls after playing the demo version to someone else in the office, the group's A&R, Kenny Ortiz, just so happened to be walking by and heard the track. That's when Brian says Kenny turned to him and said, "Why you holding back on me, Brian? Hand it here." The song was originally supposed to go to Uncle Charlie Wilson, then Bobby Brown. Fortunately, that never happened. Morgan would end up licensing the song to SWV as well as creating some of their biggest hits, including Right Here, You're the One, I'm So Into You, and more. How the song itself came about is an entirely different story. In the questionable music video, the girls are seen singing with cameos from a few different stars, as well as a random boxing match seen throughout the vid. But apparently the men's weren't who the song was intended for. Week was supposed to be about a woman. So let me get this straight. SWV was really singing about other sisters? Well, not exactly. Of course, the song could be intended to be about or dedicated to whomever and whatever, a person, pet, or even food. But the writer himself, Brian Alexander Morgan, supposedly wrote the track following his downtime from the label he'd been signed to at the time. But forget all that. Who's the song about? Week was actually written about Brian's crush at the time. And who might that be? Get this, Brian had the hots for his boss's girl. Talk about being scandalous. Treading on rocky waters with that one. It's one thing to have a crush, but it's another thing to write an entire song about being weak in the knees, you can hardly speak, and losing all self-control when your boss's girl comes around. It gets better or worse. The boss's girl wasn't just any regular old homegirl. She was the one and only Shantae Moore. It's all right, Shantae. Love's taking over, Shantae. Hate to break it to you, Brian, but Shantae's got a man. Twisting the knife even further in his chest, it didn't help that Brian lived in the same apartment building as his boss's girl. Not only was Brian doing everything he could to refrain from pulling a, "Hey, Miss Parker," if that wasn't bad enough. It didn't help that he and Shantae were also label mates over at Warner Brothers. It'd be there that the two developed a friendship, but as we already established, that's as far as things were gonna go. Unfortunately for Shantae, her album wouldn't see the light of day due to production losses. So, what did Shantae have to say about all of this? Well, we don't know. We don't even know if Miss Moore is aware that one of the biggest tracks of all time was written about her. Although Brian has mentioned it to people in her circle, he's never outright told Shantae Moore herself. He did, however, give her a shout out on the liner notes of Cachet de Voix, a group he'd been working with at the time. I mean, get it how you can, I guess. Just imagine Keith Sweat's Nobody, En Vogue's Don't Let Go, or Jodeci's Forever My Lady being written about you, and you didn't even know. Or on the flip side, TLC's No Scrubs. The shocking revelation of Week's origin story may be amusing to many, but in Coco, Lily, and Tasha's defense, the song was written way before SWV were even thought of. Aging well in the songs that shaped the 90s file, Week is a track that not only shaped the last decade of the 20th century, but renovated music as we know it. Its simple lyricism and mellow beat paired with its adult nursery rhythmic flow cultivated the perfect balance between an easy on the ears groove and hopeless romantic short story. Deriving from their best-selling album It's About Time, Brian Morgan's pen game single-handedly propelled the group into mainstream success. Brian himself, despite being in high demand following the release of the girls' album debut, wouldn't see much of the same fate. He is, however, known for being the battery shoved in SWV's backs, creating one of the best songs of our time that generations after generations will forever be in love with. All thanks to the boss's woman. Everyone say thank you, Shantae. Were you surprised that SWV's week was written about a woman? More specifically, Shantae Moore. Let us know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments, and stay tuned for more true celebrity stories.